Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Hope everybody's doing great. Karl Bryan coming at you for Business Coaching Secrets. I am here, sans Road Dog. Our boy is in Las Vegas as I speak. Lucky duck. Being the super parent that he is, he's there coaching his daughter in soccer and all her buds. I've been watching on Facebook. I think they got a couple of losses, but hopefully a couple of wins, and he's having a good time. But anyway, so the Road Dog has fired me through some questions, so let's see how that goes. So again, thanks for being here. And here is our first question from Road Dog, and he's put in start. So he's going to paraphrase this one. But he's wondering, when I say systems stifle creativity, they're wondering what I mean. Systems are obviously critical to growing business, and you clearly have a very systematized business yourself. I'm wondering if you could explain. Okay. Importantly, before I answer, like at the end of the day, you need to have something valuable to sell, right? No systems are going to save you nor your high-end coaching clients. So you think about it. R&D marketing should be somewhat the same. In fact, you just heard, actually you didn't, but in our pre-show, we were talking about MarTech. Okay, and what does MarTech mean? That is marketing and tech, so the tech division under marketing. Very important that R&D and marketing are one of the same. And like, okay, so you got to provide value, right? So maybe define economic value. One is you can find what people want and then work out a clever way of delivering it to them, right? Like we'd have, created software forever. Now, a decade ago, we created software for business coaches. So we were doing what the competition was doing, but in a very, very different way. And you can imagine, and if you're here listening, there's a good chance you like the idea of using software to coach your clients, right? So we came up with something and delivered it in a more clever way, right? Or secondly, what you do is you work out what you can deliver and then find a clever way of making people want it, right? So again, Coca-Cola, if you watch their ads, very little about Coke, but all about lifestyle, right? Cool people doing cool things. And Nike and so many others do that very successfully. Hopefully you get that, right? So either one can create a great result and a very profitable business. But the bottom line, being too systematized, too predictable could be the death knell, right? So back to system stifle creativity. I think a lot of the time when people think of that, I think of the book not Think and Grow Rich, but The E-Myth, right? Michael Gerber. And, again, I don't know that book. It's a fabulous book, and I've read it multiple times myself. But at the end of the day, thinking that you're going to systematize a business and then go away for 6 months to a more profitable business, I'll just let you count on your hands how many times you've seen that happen or had that happen. Bill Gates was intimately involved with Microsoft for forever. Steve Jobs was intimately involved in Apple. What happened when Steve Jobs left Apple? We all know the story, no doubt you do. So just thinking about that, systems, look, I'm going to do this in a two-part answer, right? So think of your business as consumer facing and then staff facing, right? So if you hire 16-year-olds like McDonald's, you want to systematize everything. But if you hire six-figure professionals trying to advance their career, systematizing them too much, what will happen is you end up losing them, right? What do they want? They want freedom, right? And employees are primarily, I think they're dialed in on three things, right? They want a sense of contribution, right? What they do means something beyond themselves. Two, they want to give back. And then three, from my experience, they want to learn a lot, right? It's another way of saying they want to grow. Like Google sends their employees off and they say create a side hustle, and they want them to work on that for 20% of the time. right? And those projects have become insanely profitable over the years with different examples with different employees. A lot of that time was lit on fire, by the way, but that's just way, if you want to build a business the size of Google, apparently this is a really good thing to do. And then many other companies, both in tech and otherwise, have followed suit, right? So that's how you keep good talent. And if you want to keep good talent, you show me a good business, then I'm going to show you somebody who's retained talented individual, right? Um, and notwithstanding, it breeds an innovative culture, which is what I believe you want. And you don't want a static one. I could use examples like, I don't know, the obvious ones, BlackBerry, Blockbuster, Kodak, who missed the boat. You want to build $1 trillion company like Google has. Side project's a good idea, right? So said differently, companies that try to control too much of their employees and systematize too much on the staff facing end lose them, right? And even like behavioral economics observes what people do rather than what they think. They'll do like based on mathematical equations, right? There are parts of your business where developing subjective measures of reality will open doors that logic and systems just can't, right? And now part two, think about this, like business is war. In war, the last thing you want to do is what? And I'll tell you, be predictable, right? So when, Russia invaded the Ukraine, it was in the middle of the night, right? So you don't want to be predictable. You want to be deceptive like a lion in the wilderness looking for dinner. You want your enemy to be thinking you're doing one thing and really you're doing the other. Like Michael Jordan said, the best part of playing for Team USA back in the day when he played in the Olympics was learning the weaknesses of his teammates when they were training, right? Having that knowledge when he returned to the NBA put him at a competitive advantage. He would ask the players at the All-Star game, what's the one weakness you have and that you'd like to improve? Right? He would sure getting to know him a little bit better and whatnot, but they didn't realize what he was thinking, and the notes that he was taking was basically a recognizance. Am I saying that right? Mission for the playoffs, right? And he went on to win 3 championships in a row and another 3 championships in a row when he came back from baseball, right? So, are you always looking for that competitive advantage? Are your clients always looking for that competitive advantage? Are you helping your clients look for those competitive advantages? If you're not, I think you might be missing out on a massive, massive opportunity, right? Like again, the cleaning company should be collecting all of the other cleaning companies' marketing material. Whereas what they're doing is they're actually actively trying, on their mailbox, they're like, no direct mail. We don't want, I don't want any extra mail in here, right? Huge mistake. And are you looking and are you helping your client? Are you walking them in that direction, right? Like if I'm selling coaching, one of the first questions in the process is I ask, what are the 3 biggest challenges / weaknesses you're currently facing, right? We go through the entire process after that, asking about, do they have a market dominating position? Are they actively, controlling costs? But we've all, always come back to that. If it's say it's a 90-minute get together, a 45-minute get together, a 90-minute get together, 2 hours, I'm always going to come back to the answers of their 3 biggest challenges and weaknesses. Right? So again, you go through the process, but you circle back. That's why you ask the question, just like Michael Jordan did at the All-Star game, right? Like you go to a networking function, think about it. The other concern, like hobnobbing to get their business, not really interested in them. How do you combat that? How do you show interest in someone? You ask questions, right? And by the way, when you go to the networking function and you say, I am a business coach, what do? They go into beta mode. Why? Because they know exactly, they know that the angle you're taking. Or if I'm a realtor, right, you suddenly become insanely predictable, not a good idea, right? So the goal, if you were to establish war as your metaphor, you want to be unpredictable, just like Russia was when they assumed, when they bombed Ukraine. I don't think they were, they weren't waiting. They weren't ready, right? So you want to be thinking about, going at it as though it's war, I think can give you a good metaphor for your clients and for yourself to be able to give them that competitive advantage and be able to help them go in a very different direction than what their competitors might be, or they might be thinking that they're doing, right? maybe the bottom line here, you want to be creating an emotional reaction, right? It's the art of selling. So again, being predictable would be the vast, the exact opposite. People don't buy Ferraris to get from point A to point B. You don't buy a Rolex because it tells better time. Quite the contrary. If you have a Rolex, it's never, probably very seldom tells the right time, right? As my wife, by the way, she always laughs at me because, I'm wearing a watch, and she's like, "Why do you even wear a watch? That thing does not have the right time nor date, etc." Right? So um, this is where I think you need to be a little bit careful just with logistics. R&D or finance departments, they take too much control over a business and the business owner's decisions, or the business's decisions. Um, you want to think about it as R&D and marketing being the same thing. And remember, if business is about building a winning team, the same way in a basketball league, a football league, whether it be a beer league or the professionals, it's about getting A grade players. And if you systematize those guys at too high of a level, they go play somewhere else, go work somewhere else, right? So what do? You want to provide them creativity and provide them freedom. Once again, though, if it's McDonald's that you're helping and you're flipping burgers, and you're going to franchise from one side of the country and become multinational, it's a slightly different conversation. But I dare say that a lot of your clients, they'd like to think they're building McDonald's, but they most certainly are not. So systems stifle creativity, absolutely. That's what I mean. But as you're moving along, clearly you need to be systematizing with policies and processes, et cetera, documenting them, getting them out, right? Maybe to follow up with that, I could give you like an example of clever ways to find out what people want and work out a clever way of delivering it, and then work out what you can deliver, and then find a clever, what did I say, like create a clever way of making people want it, right? So again, one, you want to find what people want and then a clever way of delivering it to them, like our software, or you want to work out what you can deliver and then a clever way for people wanting to get a hold of it, right? So think of objective versus subjective reality within your business or within your client's business. Subjective is making something faster, improving its efficiency, its effectiveness in a tangible way. Subjective is making something better or more enjoyable, like enhancing the client experience, right? So an example of objective would be cleaning a house faster, right? Painting a house in less time than they could get it elsewhere. Delivering, a good or a service in a way that's more time efficient for the end user, making a car more fuel efficient, making a train go faster, provide more. You got a phone, you're running out of space. You want a phone that has more memory, or a better camera might be a better example of that. A driverless truck. I've got a buddy who owns a transportation company. No doubt you could see how driverless trucks are very attractive to him. Why? What's the number one issue that a transportation company has with lots of trucks? And the answer would be drivers, translation staff, right? Or maybe it's a weight room where the weights take up less room, right? So you can get more bang for your buck per square footage if you own the gym. Or if you've got something at home, you want to have a gym at home, but maybe it's something that could fold away and slip underneath the bed, right? Because you got spatial issues, etc. These like objective improvements are generally insanely expensive, like getting the train there faster, right? And then the question would be, could your client afford to do that, right? Like Facebook is spending billions on virtual reality, and then Google spending billions on driverless cars, while Ford and GM are kind of fighting to keep their head above water, while the electric cars and the hybrid cars, et cetera, are kind of taking over the marketplace, right? By the way, GM and Ford made great strides over the last couple of years, but I got to tell you, I haven't looked at their financial statements, but I can tell you that they are spending an absolute mint in order to keep up, right? So what I'm trying to say is improving subjective can be a whole lot easier and a whole lot less expensive and a whole lot potentially realistic for your client, right? So objective would be hiring an engineering firm and spending $1 billion to make the car go faster, the train get 45-minute trip where it was otherwise 3 hours. No doubt you could see the attractiveness to that and they'd be willing to pay more and line up for it. And then subjective would be, rather than making the train go faster and spending countless amount of money, you seek to find ways to make the train 10x more enjoyable for a fraction of the cost, right? So yes, people want to get there faster, there's no question, but Ducati, Rolex, Louis Vuitton, or Ferrari, it's far more about subjective intrinsic value and than the fact that this Ferrari can get you from A to B faster than their Toyota, or like offering ticket upgrades like first class seating, priority boarding, the fastest Wi-Fi money can buy, reclining chairs and alcoholic drinks available at a movie theater, or it's a no kids experience at the movie theater that some people would be looking for, building a bar or a social area with loud music on the train, or maybe in the total different direction, a soundproof room where they could make calls. Wouldn't that be great, right? So you've got a 3-hour train ride, but you're going to be able to go into a soundproof room and make calls and work on your laptop and not be bothered, right? So like to get here, rather than try solve problems logistically with logic, you want to start thinking physiologically, right? So the finance side of the business tends to hate the marketing side, and that would be a mistake, right? The grayest part of any business is definitely consumer buying decisions, and variance in this area is vast, would be an understatement. Like we, a coach, he spends hundreds of thousands of dollars a year on a profit sharing arrangement where he has a team of coaches under him. He's proud of the fact that he's my number one client, right? I get another guy, like revenue wise, he's been a client for 10 years. He does $30 million a year. He's been with me again for like a decade. He's proud to be able to say that he's his number one coach, right? We had one of our coaches just earlier on the pre-show, David Sheldon, asked him how long he's been around. I didn't even realize it'd been this long, but he said 11 years, right? Again, been with somebody 11 years, you probably want to stick around a little bit longer, right? And again, with that in mind and a psychological play, like I have charged $100,000 plus for coaching, right? You're not going to get there with only logic. Remember, Tony Robbins gets paid for who he is far more than what he does, and most certainly not what he sells. You listen to Tony Robbins, you get interviewed, he's always saying how his clients pay $1 million a year plus upside. That is not by accident, not in any way. It's very strategic. So I don't know, think about selling things and helping your clients in this manner. I'd bet a lot of money that your coaching client is not thinking like this, and I dare say that would get a little bit excited by this. Again, getting into the consumer experience. Rather than getting the train there faster, making it 10x more enjoyable. And I shouldn't say all of that without, that if I've done this exercise 1,000 times and we've mentioned it different times on the podcast, but if you take a piece of paper and I want you to write down the top 10 brands by your estimation, okay, and then I do the exact same thing, I would dare say we'd have a very similar list, right? Companies like Rolex and Ferrari and Burberry, Disney, Apple, Tiffany's, etc. Well, on that list, the companies that you mark down, I can guarantee they wouldn't be there if they didn't have one thing, and that is profit margin. Right? Your client doesn't even know what profit margin means, right? They don't know the difference between net and gross profit margin, and that is something that you should be educating yourself on, educating them on. But all of this to say, if you're, rather than spending hundreds of thousands, millions, potentially tens of millions, and in the case of Google and whatnot, like billions. You dare say that making the train experience more enjoyable versus faster might be a place to go, and more to the point, more realistic for the audience that we're caring for, right? So I just say your clients aren't thinking intrinsically. I built a $5.5 million coaching company. We used to do $400,000 a month. And what we would do is we would get all of our clients together in one room 3 times a year. We had sales secrets, we had leadership, and we'd do like social media and online advertising. And we would get everybody together, and there would always be drinks afterwards and that kind of thing. We'd encourage partnerships amongst the participants. It's insanely fun. Everybody enjoyed it. It provides social proof on steroids. They were all able to bring guests. And then a lot of those guests, guess what they did? They ended up becoming clients as well, right? So we end up with a full room, crazy amount of social proof, and an insanely fun environment, right? And we do the same now with business coaching mastery. We go to Cancun every year. Our coaches are mingling with one another, enjoying the sun, enjoying the beach, enjoying Mexico, having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with fellow coaches and learning from their experiences and what does not work, right? And then, by the way, another thing that we do, and again, like virtual business coaching mastery, where the format for that is that we ask our most successful clients and coaches, how do they generate leads, how do they convert clients, how do they support their clients, and then we do a virtual business coaching mastery event, right? So basically getting our top clients who've been around, like David, for 11 years, and they're up on stage virtually and delivering to our audience, our clients, our paying clients, how they went about doing X, Y, Z. The results are always the same, and that's that the audience learns an insane amount. X factor there, intrinsically, the psychological profile of it, the psychological angle of it, is that our events are very profitable and they provide social proof on steroids. So that is what I would say about how, you just want to be thinking about, the client, the end consumer experience, your coaching clients experience. And I dare say, if you get a little bit creative, you might be able to come up with some incredible ways to be able to help your client in a very profitable way. And I think that is a great idea. Again, it's not, the name of our software is profit acceleration software. It's not revenue acceleration software. It's profit acceleration software, right? And that being said, if you get into the mind of your client, what do they ask for? They ask for leads. Why do they want leads? Because they want clients. Why do they want clients? Because they want revenue. Why do they want revenue? Because they want profit. Why do they want profit? Because they want cash. And do understand that profit and cash are two very different things, vastly different. And then, by the way, why do they want the cash? If I go one step further, guess what they want? Freedom. Okay, but the difference that, your definition of freedom, my definition of freedom, Road Dogg was here, his definition of freedom are going to be different. So one of the first things that I do if I'm working with a chiropractor, what's his definition of freedom? Because he's asking you for leads, but what he's really asking for is freedom. But he's never taken that chain and connected it together, right? So that's what you sell. Hopefully that's what you provide. You're going to have some clients that are going to be very, very happy to stick around for an extended period of time with you. So that is my answer to that. I have got another question here from Road Dogg. I have a growing coaching practice and looking for ways to get new high-end coaching clients. I target companies over $5 million, and I'm wondering if you could point me in an excellent direction. Okay, here we go. Nicely worded question. If I look into my crystal ball, business coach targets businesses that do over 5 million. A client that, and the reason I would dare say that he's targeting businesses over 5 million because they can afford them and they have the money to spend, right? I would dare say that would be fairly obvious. I'll tell you that a $5 million client, a $10 million client, a $25 million client, they need more hand-holding than the smaller crew, right? And then, by the way, that coach gets 4 clients. They're maxed out because they need more time. And then you can't hire a business coach to work underneath you because the talent required is significantly higher. So that, like, those that will work, like the guy that will work for you and be able to charge a client 6 figures, what they end up doing is end up going out on their own, and then they become competition, right? And so potentially, well, actually, I wouldn't say potentially, almost guaranteed that when you're going to companies that are doing, again, let's call it $5 million, you're walking past 96% of them that haven't, well, even more than you're walking past 98%, 99% that haven't got to $1 million of gross, right? Look, maybe a metaphor. You go to 7-Eleven, and here's what I guarantee: the milk and the bread is at the back of the store, right? And then, by the way, you go to the grocery store, it's the exact same. And then those two items are where on either sides, not done by accident, right? So by going to $5 million companies, $10 million companies, you're walking past five other, clients, or 100 different clients that you could otherwise do. The same way in the grocery store, we're walking by 500 items that you all of a sudden fill up your basket, right? When you didn't plan to do that, you literally walked in and said, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not filling up the grocery cart. Next thing you know, you got a bunch of groceries you're coming home with, your bill's significantly higher, and guess what happens for the grocery store? They make more money, right? So going to clients, 5 million bucks, I dare say you're walking past a lot of folks who would love to work with you. I did, like, if you run let's say you run a business event, right? There's 10 business owners in the room. Look, 9 of them are not your audience when you're going over $1 million, right? So if you want to scale, generally speaking, it's going to be significantly higher when you're going to companies doing $5 million and above, is kind of where I'm trying to get to, right? And what does Tony Robbins do? Like, of course, he has high-end clients that, spend $1 million plus upside. But when you go to his event, he's got 5,000 people in the room. He's going, the bulk of the audience is that, elusive mark of trying to get to $1 million. That's literally the conversation in their head. I'm trying to get to $1 million, Tony. Can you guide me? Right. The other thing that he'll tell you is that people come for one reason and then leave with a totally different result. That's part of the hack as well. But the bottom line is that he recognizes it, and I dare say that you might want to be thinking about recognizing that. But again, I can't define freedom for you. So the right path for you might be to only get 5 clients doing $5 million and above, but don't do that and think that you're going to be able to scale a traditional coaching business, right? Like, one of the things we help our higher end coaches build a team of coaches, right? So if you only looked after $5 million clients, then go for it. But then hand the smaller guys over to the coach who's working for you with less experience and let them help them grow. And remember that somebody trying to get to $1 million will be happy. They don't need to have, let's just call it the MBA or the PhD in business, right? So yeah, just thinking about, like, again, the goal to find freedom for yourself. And if you're going for clients over 5 million, that's awesome. Hats off to you, but just do understand you'll be walking by 9 that could otherwise work with you in other ways. And by the way, people don't start businesses and hit $5 million straight away, right? Like, those people in the audience, coaching clients, can go from 500,000 to 5 million. So, consider participating and helping make that happen, right? So now but I want to make sure I'm answering. So, like, you do want to go to $5 million companies, and I haven't, that what I just talked about, not necessarily looking for scaling. I don't want to have a big team of coaches. I would dare say that you need to have some credibility. The best way to get those clients is probably a JV relationship and somebody that's already attached to them. Like, think accountant as an example is the templated way that I would go about it. And you want to have an educational relationship, like, as being, credibility would often be that, someone who can teach me something. So when I read your daily emails, I listen to your podcast, I go to your Facebook feed, my question is, like, what does your educational process look for? Or not look for, but deliver by way of the $5 million company, right? And by the way, genuinely help people, right? One of the things I literally wrote in an email that went out today, that if you want to, like, the best way to get credibility as a coach, to not try to, not put out your offer and that sort of stuff, but literally advertise and educate people on your process. That is a really, really good way. And just think Alex Hormozy 101, if you want an example of that. I would imagine if you're listening to this, you're familiar with Alex Hormozy. He's absolutely fantastic. His educational content is, really I don't know, I call it unparalleled, but it is by volume and quality, I would dare say it's unparalleled. And that's basically what he's doing, and again, guess who he goes to? He goes for significantly, if you're not doing, $5 million plus, I think it's $4 million is what he puts out there. You're not, but again, just look at the process that he follows, and it's exactly that one, which, by the way, would be delayed gratification on steroids. So you have to be able to get yourself, you know what I mean? You'd have to manage your psychology to know that you're going to do a whole lot of work and not get clients immediately. So it's Santa Claus versus the Grinch is maybe what I just described in a good metaphor, and one that we do internally here. You want to be giving away, as opposed to the Grinch, who would be taking. Or if you follow Gary V, great influencer out there, he's got a book from many, many years ago, jab, 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 left hook. What he meant with that is like help, 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 and then go for the sale, and not prior. So I might just, okay, so now you're listening to this and you're like, okay, and now the JV, right? Like you want to be able to, you want to form a joint venture with an accountant to get the $5 million companies. Going to the accountant and asking them for those clients is one thing, but a way better approach is what I just described, and that's solve the problem for the accountant, right? What is the major accountant that a problem has, or the major problem that an accountant has, and then solve that, right? Like do a little delayed gratification, do some work for the accountant for free, and then move towards, hey, send me some clients. And then, by the way, again, if you follow the podcast, you're going to, you've heard this, but I got to tell you, it's so impactful. The way that you help an accountant is that they have clients and they come in once a year, 3 months after the year is over, with their shoebox, metaphorically, and they need their taxes done, and they need them done ASAP because they're due, right? And they expect, rose petal, red carpet type, red carpet type service, and it's just not possible during tax season. If you know anything about the taxing, the accounting industry, tax season is a very, very busy one for the accountants, and they just can't provide that level of service. And once the numbers are in, right? So how could you solve that? Well, when you work with the accountant's clients, what you do is you say, look, I guarantee anybody that you hand me, don't send me your best, don't send me your worst, send me somebody in the middle, but I'll make sure that they come in, 4 to 12 times a year. And I will make sure that when tax season comes along, they will not be in that crazy lineup like the cafeteria. They won't be in that lineup because their taxes will already be done. The numbers will already be in. It'll be like push button stuff. And by the way, when you go see the accountant 4 times a year, 10 times a year, guess what happens to their fees? They go up dramatically. And by the way, that's the type of work that generally an accountant likes to do. She doesn't like doing the crazy busy tax season stuff. If you could help them solve that problem, wouldn't that be awesome? And you say, look, send me 3 people and let me follow through on that. And then once you work with 3 people and they're all coming in multiple times per year, guess what he's probably going to want to do? Guess what she's probably going to want to do? And that sends you more people, right? So that would be an example. If you're going to a radio station, what's the challenge they have? Leads, right? Well, donate something to the radio station. Like if you work with us, that you have a business academy, a 12-month membership with 52 weeks that quite frankly are unparalleled, just unbelievable education. We'll donate one of those. Donate 10 of them. If you put a value on that $5,000, that means you're giving them $50,000 up front. Well, what does the radio station do with them? They run a promotion and say, hey, if you're looking for some business coaching, some direction, we have got a free membership to XYZ Business Academy. Be the 15th caller and win XYZ, right? Be the first person to contact us, email us, message us on the website, and win XYZ, right? Well, they get 50 people that put their hand up, and the 15th caller wins. Guess what? They've got 50 people to follow up and sell some ads to. Will everybody buy an ad? No. Does the radio station have a starter kit for them? The answer is no. And that's another hack. Help them create a starter kit for smaller type businesses, right? Again, solving the problem. I got there by solving the problem for the radio station that I know they already have. What does the average advertising medium have as a challenge? they get advertisers and then they cancel. What are you going to do? Look, send me 3 clients, not your best, not your worst. Tell me how much they're spending on an ad. Let's call that 10 grand for just arbitrary number. Okay, you send me somebody. I will personally guarantee, to the best of my ability, they will not cancel their advertising with you. And my goal over 12 months will be to double their ad spend. Well, you all of a sudden become armor for them and their advertising clients, right? And what you're doing is, what's the biggest problem that they have? They get advertisers and they lose them because they're not getting results. And then you tell them, look, I believe advertising to profit is a superpower, which I absolutely believe that. I hope you do too. You know, the business owner that says, oh, I've never advertised in my life, and they kind of pump their chest, right? That is not a good idea, right? If they got X, if they got to $1 million of revenue with advertising, imagine, only on word of mouth and referrals, which is what they'll tell you. Imagine if they would have advertised, right? What a great idea. Like, I took the radio station, the advertising medium, the online directory is going to be incredibly excited about that, right? And you're solving a problem for them. They send you 3 clients. Those 3 clients double their ad spend and don't cancel their agreement. What do you think they're going to do? I dare say they're going to send you a bunch of other clients, right? But this would fall under delayed gratification, like Tom Brady. He didn't start throwing the football and getting paid. He threw the football for a while before he got his big check. He threw the football for a very, very long time before he won his Super Bowl, first Super Bowl, and became a household name. The unfortunate thing is, you got to do some work. But if you want to go and get $5 million companies, joint venture would be if you don't have a huge reputation and you can't just go and attract those types of folks, the way to do it is the way that I just described, right? And by the way, I've talked to that about to death. And if you search the podcast and joint venture, I would dare say plenty would come up for you, and you could possibly hear that in a different way and more detailed. So there you go. That is what I would recommend along those lines. So those are the questions the road dog fired to me. I hope that provides you guys some value. We're missing the road dog, but again, he will be here next week. He'll be back from Vegas, possibly sporting a hangover. Who knows? Isn't that what happens in Las Vegas? But that's all I got for you today, folks. I hope that was helpful. And maybe actually Road Dog was here. What would he do? He would tell me, give me the one thing. And the one thing that I am going to hit you with is what? I think a really powerful thing that I spoke about earlier and was explaining was that thinking about intrinsic, instead of trying to make the train go faster, thinking of a 10x more enjoyable experience for the guy riding the train, the gal riding the train to their destination. How can your client go about doing that? One of the ways, again, that we did that with my traditional business coaching company, where we just we had chiropractors, dentists, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers as clients, is that we did an event 3 times a year, brought everybody together. When we were closing it, by the way, they're humming and hawing about whether or not they're going to get results. It's like one of the first things we would say, well, look, we're going to put you in a room with all of our clients 3 times a year. If we're not following through on what we promised and what we said, and the profits that I feel like I can deliver by following the Jumpstart 12 or following my process, that would be that would be a brutal thing to do and put us very much in harm's way. So that's obviously not going to happen. So not only does it provide you an intrinsic, looking at your coaching company as adding tremendous amount of value, and not to mention, we would also put, let's just call it $500 a ticket, okay, as the value of each ticket. Well, if you give the client 10 tickets and they're each valued at $500, and that's literally printed on the ticket, what's that? That's $5,000 of value that you're including your $2,000 a month, your 24 grand a year. Here's $5,000 up front. And the first event is in 6 weeks, right? You're going to be able to realize the value, and not only for you, but also for your manager, for your sales manager, for your spouse, and very importantly, for the people who do business with you. And then, by the way, as they think, well, who would I bring? You just say, who, your end client, who do they deal with before they deal with you? Who do they deal with while they're dealing with you? And then who do they deal with after they're dealing with you, right? And then, by the way, those would be great joint venture partners, generally speaking, for that particular client. And now they're putting them in your room. And guess what? You're going to have a real good shot at being able to sell them your high-end coaching. So hopefully that provides you guys some value. I hope that was helpful. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. See you later, folks.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.